altar boys, as part of that parish. So, and it came apart very, very quickly, I'd have to say.
Yes, but you've pointed out some inconvenient truths there that some people in Ireland, including in the media industry in which I work, would prefer to ignore. That the ban on abortion wasn't imposed by Rome. Irish people voted for it, just as they voted to get rid of it. That's something people like to forget. And the papal visit, people went because they wanted to be there. People were happy, and they were chastising people. I know Morris, who runs Books Upstairs, another fine establishment in Dublin. He had people come into his bookshop in 1979. Attacking him for having his shop open on the day. It was a perfectly normal day, it wasn't a holiday. And he joked to me, he said, I wonder how many people who are in my bookshop today in 2018 when Pope Francis was there, I wonder how many of them were the ones who were coming in here attacking me back then. So what I was trying to do with the book is we were all there, and there was a very different Ireland at the time, and it was important for somebody of my generation, as you said, to understand it, to respect the feelings at the time, because if you just poo-poo it and dismiss it and mock those people, you're actually just kind of repeating how, let's say, people of a non-religious persuasion were being treated back then. And I would say, to quote Oscar Hammerstein in South Pacific, you've got to be carefully taught. And I think these days in Ireland, we need to be very careful that lessons of attacking people, denouncing people, shutting people down, what we would now today call cancelling people, that isn't just a flipped version, an Alice in Wonderland version of what was going on by Catholic hierarchy and their allies back in the day.
Mary, you quote in your book an American Jesuit sociologist, B.F. Beaver, if I think I pronounced his name correctly, as doing some sort of, I don't know what the statistically reliable basis of it was, but, or otherwise, but apparently some 90% of people he surveyed agreed that the church is the greatest force for good in Ireland today. That would have been in the 60s?
I think that was 68, yes.
And 80% disagreed with the suggestion that the church is out of date.
Yes.
I thought it would be good to read just a passage from Kevin Phelan's book, Religion, Landscape and Settlement in Ireland, from Patrick to the Present, because if I can find it now, sorry, where he talks about how things changed very, very quickly. And yes, he talks about, I suppose this is by way of making a point that maybe a bit like the sower going out to sow the seed, some of the seed landed on shallow ground, and maybe in Ireland it was maybe as shallow as it was in many places. But he talked about, and this is, forgive me for reading a slightly lengthy passage, but he says that unlike its European counterparts, 19th century Irish Catholicism was never required to pay a political reckoning for its stances within a state regime that was hostile to it. It escaped the fate of its European counterparts, who lost support for at best not resisting and at worst supporting fascist regimes in the mid-20th century. However, the Irish Church eventually paid a severe accumulated price for uncontested power when a rapidly transforming Irish economy, society and state detached itself from the church-state consensus in the 1990s. An institutionally rigid Catholicism had calcified in Ireland, severed from its Gaelic roots in the name of Romanisation. It installed a smug and domineering leadership style that sidelined the laity, marginalised, condescended and mistreated women, promoted a prim, pernickety piety rather than spirituality, scorned intellectual debate, and inflicted routine cruelty in the name of unchallenged power and prestige within an all too docile flock. Unable to resist the knocker's ball that hit it in the 1990s, this brittle construction crumbled as it deserved to crumble. Letterfrack, Tuam, Golden Bridge, Cloyne, Ferns and too many others generated their own litany of shame. A hurt child is always and only a hurt child, and the abyss gaped open, the abyss, as opposed to the abyss gaped open the second that this was forgotten. The tragedy of the evil was compounded by the fact that it was inflicted most on the weak, the vulnerable, the fragile, and the timid, the female, the poor, and the marginalised. A class element was always in play. The Catholic middle class escaped, but they also shut their eyes, their mouths, and their hearts.
Very strong. This is a very interesting book, because the other side of this book is that it takes a long view since the evangelisation of Ireland by Patrick, and he really shows that every square foot of this country is embedded with Christianity. That's the other side of that book. It is so strong. It is the island of St. Scots. And if you look back on that long history, it is extraordinary. And that is something that I think we should be more aware of, and we should be knowledgeable about, and we should see that as part of our culture. I mean, his analysis is right, and it's good, and it's just, and Derek has also written very well about the whole abuse thing, but a lot of analysis about Irish failings do not take into context a wider world in a way, it seems to me. We do need a little bit of comparative anthropology on some of these issues, and the whole of the West went secular. It wasn't confined to Ireland. There's a wave of secularity has passed through the Western world. So that's one side. So his attribution that it is the failings of the Catholic Church that has caused the secularity, I don't think that holds up to examination if you compare it to other cultures. Stephen Bullivant wrote a very good book called Mass Exodus, which is about the people leaving the churches all over the Western world, and the liberal Protestant churches have lost even more. Derek has recently been in Sweden. Something like, I don't know, is it 2% of the Swedes ever go to church? In Denmark, the same thing. Even though the church is actually established in Denmark, it's part of the Danish constitution, nevertheless. So I think we do have to look further and look at other things. And if you look at things like cruel treatment, for example, of unmarried mothers, indeed a very serious subject, and I think should be highlighted and written about. It also occurred in other countries. Jane Robinson's study of British social history in the family way absolutely chronicles the stigmas against unmarried mothers in Britain right up to 2015. And I think we do have to not constantly say we were the worst in the world, we were the most terrible country in the world because bad and cruel things happened. Bad and cruel things happen in lots of places.
I would disagree slightly with you on that, and also what the guy in the book said. First of all, I would say we wanted to be the best. So to say that we were as bad as other people, that's kind of like a whataboutism. I was like, everywhere I went to interview people, they always say, well, what's it like here and what's it like there? And I said, well, I don't really care. I'm here to talk about Ireland. And we have there's often a notion, oh, why don't we look over there? And anything to not look at ourselves. So I'm always slightly wary of saying, well, everywhere was treated